Good afternoon, students. Welcome to today's English class, and let's continue with the lesson. Day before yesterday there was a problem with the mic, so we couldn't continue with the class. There was a gap. There was a gap in the previous class and this class. Okay. So with the photography is over already, and we have begun, right, and day before yesterday we were, I mean say on Saturday actually there was a class, but the class for some reason couldn't get recorded properly because of the technical problem. So that's why a class is, we are falling short of one class and we are going late by one class, right? So we were discussing about the treatise on good manners and good breeding by Jonathan Swift, and the next thing is Jonathan Swift has written this essay keeping the English conditions, that means the British conditions, in view, and he wrote how good manners and good breeding plays an important role, but what kind of trouble they make, what kind of difficulties they put forward in maintaining those good manners and good breeding. Okay, good manners, according to him, good manners generally takes place in a person when that person has been brought up in proper good breeding from their mothers, from their parents, from their respective fathers, right? So, another thing, when we stopped the lesson, we were at the point of discussing one thing. What was that? There are three persons in our life who are supposed to be always taken care of, especially when we invite them to parties. The first one is superiors, people who are superior than us. Superior to us, I mean to say. Superior means they are way ahead, above us. They are a step ahead of us, be it in the matter of status, or be it in the matter of money, or be it in the matter of any other things. That is the first person, superior. Second person is the one who are our equals, and the third one is people who are lower than us in status and in money, this and that. And he also gives us the example stating that the first two persons, that means the people who are superior to us and the people who are equals, who are our equals, okay, they should not be persuaded by us when they are invited to a dinner about their drinking, about their eating, about their this and that. We should not force them. Did you have your lunch? Did you have your dinner? Did you have your drink? Did you have your share of this? Did you have your share of that? We should not do this, because superiors and the people who are our equals, they feel it as a matter of breach of manners. That means they feel it as impolite, because they feel that they know everything. So people who know everything should not be persuaded by us when they are invited for a ceremony or any party, according to Jonathan Swift. Another one, after these two people, one person, who is that people who are lower than us in status, in richness, in money, this and that. What happens is, they should not be left without, asking, like we leave the superiors and our equals. Because if these people who are invited by us to the ceremony or any party hosted by us, if they are not invited properly, I mean, if they are not asked like this, did you have your share of drink, this and that? Did you have your lunch? Did you have your dinner? Are you happy? Did you get all the things? If they are not asked like this, they might feel a bit insulted. They might feel it as a matter of looking down upon them. Okay? So these are the manners that are supposed to be learned. And the next thing is, he also says one thing: I defy anyone to assign an incident wherein reason will not direct us what we have to say or do in company, if you are not misled by pride or ill nature. Pride, other word for proud is pride, ill nature is bad behavior. And here he says one more thing. He challenges to show an incident. He challenges to show an incident wherein reason will not direct us what we are to say or do in a company. For example, when we are in a group of people attending any ceremony or any party or any gathering, this and that, reason, that means the situation will not dictate us. The situation will not direct us, the situation will not teach us what to speak and what to do in that company. Unless we are misled by pride or ill nature. That means unless and until you are a bad person by nature, or unless and until that you are a man with some kind of proud feelings about yourselves. Who are these people? I am superior to them by and far. I am going to say by all means this and that. So if any person thinks like this, then the person will try to speak voluntarily without understanding the situation. If any person is bad by nature, even that kind of person also speaks without knowing what is happening around him or her. Okay? Another one. Therefore, I insist that good sense is the principal foundation of good manners, but because the form is a gift which very few among mankind are possessed of. I repeat the line, girls. Therefore, I insist that good sense is the principal foundation of good manners. Good sense means good understanding. The writer says that good understanding of the situation is the primary foundation. Primary foundation is primary establishment of good manners. That means if you are really good at understanding what is happening around you, what the people are talking about, what the people are looking for, if you understand these kind of things, and if you have the power to understand all those things, then that is the base, that is the foundation for developing good manners in a person, right? But because the former is a gift which very few among mankind are possessed of, therefore, all the civilized nations of the world have agreed upon fixing some rules for common behavior, best suited to their general customs or fancies as a kind of artificial good sense to supply the defects of reason. He says these things. Okay, and here he says that good sense, that means the power to understand. The power to understand what is happening around us, what the people are looking for, what the people are dealing with. Okay, if you have this power, the writer says that is the God gift. With that, many people try to develop their good manners in themselves. Okay, and based on this proper breeding, based on this proper sense of understanding, the writer says that all the civilized nations in the world, that means nations which are far better developed compared to other countries, all those nations have once met and brought out a set of rules and regulations which suits their culture and tradition, which suits their requirements. They have set up a set of rules and regulations. Okay, and sometimes if anything wrong happens among these countries' representatives while gathering at a meeting or while attending any ceremony or any party, definitely if any kind of mistakes takes place, what happens is they have their other remedies, how to supply those defects, that means how to support them, how to rectify those mistakes, and they have found all these things as well. Okay, next one. Without which the gentlemanly part of dances would be perpetually at cuffs. If these kind of set of rules and regulations and remedies are not made by these civilized group of nations, definitely if these things were not there, imagine if these things were not there, that means what are proper rules and regulations, what are good manners, what are good behaviors, what are proper polite way of conversations among two nations or between any two group of representatives or between any two people who are representing their respective countries. Okay, if these things were not made, what happens is, the writer very clearly says that these gentleman-like persons would be continuously at fighting with each other. That is what here he says it clearly. Dunces would be perpetually at cuffs. These things are given in blue. And check this one, dunces. Dunce is a foolish person. Plus perpetually at cuffs is always fighting. If these things are not inculcated in them, if these things are not taught to them, not informed to them, these gentleman-like persons will be always at fighting with each other. making a mockery of their nation, making a mockery of their tradition, culture, and this and that. Right? As they seldom fail when they happen to be drunk or engaged in squabbles about women or play. And what the next thing that happens is, as they seldom fail, and check this one, it is given as, the meaning given here is given as frequently or often. That means they always quarrel, they always fight, they always land themselves into arguments, disagreeing with the opposite groups, I mean to say. And especially their fighting, their arguments will be about the women around them, will be about any place, and PLAYS, okay, will be about any place that are being staged upon. They might be commenting in an offensive way, they might be commenting in a negative way, which would definitely hurt the sentiments of the other nation. So, good manners are essential according to the writer. Good manners are essential according to the writer, as they may prove costly sometimes if not properly inculcated in them. Next one. Next thing, and God be thanked, there hardly happens a GL in a year which may not be imputed to one of those three motives. Now here the writer also offers his thanks to the God, because whatever the fightings he was referring to just a while ago, gentleman-like people who always get into quarrels, get into fightings, get into diverse kind of arguments which would hurt the sentiments of a nation when they meet once in a year. And here the writer says that let us thank the God, because these kind of fightings doesn't happen often. They happen once in a year. Once in a year. And the other thing is, which may not be imputed to one of the three qualities, three motives, which may not be imputed. That means, which may not be connected to those three qualities. What are those three qualities, girls? Did you get that? Pride, ill nature, and want of sense. Why these things happen at least once in a year? Right? Maybe because of lack of proper understanding. Without that, means people who are without any proper good manners, people who are not brought up in good environment, only these kind of people might get into quarrels, according to the writer, he says. But even if it takes place once in a year, the writer says that these fighting should not be linked, these fighting should not be connected to the three qualities. Pride, that means a person who feels proud of himself, of his assets, this and that, of his status, of his background, of his designation. That kind of person, or ill nature, that means bad nature, bad behavior, person with bad behaviors, or want of sense, that means lack of understanding. Of these three things, no quality will be connected to those fightings, the writer says. Another one, upon which account I should be exceedingly sorry to find the legislature make any laws against the practice of GLA. If these kind of fightings take place at least once in a year, though they take place only once in a year, the writer says that if the legislatures, I'm going to say the people representatives, they take these fightings into consideration as a serious matter, and if they make any LAWS laws, if they make any rules and regulations, what are the rules and regulations should be followed to continue a fight, or why a fight should not be taken place, what kind of rules and regulations are there, if they make any kind of laws, LAWS, the writer says that if he might feel it very, very sorry, because this is not a matter of making rules and regulations about a silly kind of fight. Instead of making LAWS by this people representatives, let them take an initiative of developing good manners among their people. Let them also ensure that all their people are brought up, okay? That means good breeding, all their people are brought up in good environment. If these things happen, there won't be any chance of people getting into unnecessary dueling, unnecessary fighting, what I meant. Okay? Because the methods are easy and many for a wise man to avoid a quarrel with honor or engage in it with innocence. Now, no gentleman-like person, no gentleman, I mean to say, no gentleman will be ready for engaging himself into a fight. No gentleman will be ready to leave his honor before getting into a fight. Because getting into a fight is nothing but you are ruining your honor, you are spoiling your honor, you are spoiling your reputation, whatever the good name you earned till the time will go with the wind because of your participating in the brawl, participating in the fight. Okay? Next one. And if any person, if any people are willing to participate in such kind of dueling, that means fighting, the writer says that definitely that must be because of that person's innocence, lack of proper idea about the world around him. Next one. And I can discover no political evil in suffering bullies, sharpers and rakes to rid the world of each other by a method of their own, where the law hath not been able to find an expedient. Check this one, girls, here. Expedient, sharper, a cheater or trickster, rake, a wealthy man without morals or principles, and here method, expedient, a means by which something can be done. And I am repeating these lines, girls, once again. And I can discover no political evil suffering bullies, sharpers and rakes to rid the world of each other by a method of their own, where the law hath not been able to find an expedient. Now here, the writer also says that if any people representative makes any LAW related to good manners and good breeding, related to any kind of fighting, when the civilized nation meet, how to behave, when to fight, when not to fight, what kind of rules and regulations are to be followed before engaging into a fight, before stepping into a fight. All these things, about these things, the writer says that if these things are made by any people representative, the writer says that definitely he doesn't see any kind of political interventions. And he says that if these things are brought into existence, then definitely that is because of the sharpers or the rakes. Sharpers are those people who are cheaters, and rakes are those people, wealthy people who are, I mean to say, without morals or principles. Rich people without morals and principles. If these people are there in politics, without proper political sense, and because of the force of these kind of people represented, so people who are in politics, people who are called as MPs, MLAs and ministers, only make these kind of rules and regulations. Okay? Because they don't have any proper good breeding, they don't have any proper good manners. Because one is a sharper and the other one is a rakes. Sharpers and rakes means, sharpers are those people who cheat, and rakes are those people, they are wealthy, they are rich, but they don't have any morals, they don't have any common sense. If these people enter into politics, what happens is only bad things that shall take place. Okay? And another one, then, and it will also become a hard thing, to find a method how to stop these things. Okay? As the common forms of good manners were intended for regulating the conduct of those who have weak understandings, so they have been corrupted by the person for whose use they were contrived. And here, take a look at the word contrived, created or arranged for. Check this, I repeat the lines. Yeah, as the common forms of good manners were intended for regulating the conduct of those who have weak understandings, so they have been corrupted by the persons for whose use they were contrived. Now, why these good behaviors, why these good manners have been introduced? Because these things have been introduced for the sake of those people who have weak understanding of the situation, people who are unable to understand what is right and what is wrong, people who are unable to follow what should be done and what should not be done, people who are unable to understand what to be spoken and what not to be spoken, what to be done and what not to be done. Okay, this was actual motive. But if anything above that means if anything beyond this has been formed, that is nothing but, the writer says that They have been corrupted by the persons for whose use they were contrived. Now here if any kind of rules and regulations are made, the writer says that these rules and regulations are made only for the sake of protecting the sharpers and the rakes. The sharpers and the rakes. That means the cheaters and the rich people without any morals and principles. Only those people will get benefit, but common persons cannot get any kind of benefit. Right? For these people have fallen into a needless and endless way of multiplying ceremonies. I repeat this line, girls. For these people have fallen into a needless and endless way of multiplying the ceremonies. That means now people who make such kind of laws, LAWS, okay, people who are often ready to make changes in this LAWS and often ready to make changes in these rules and regulations related to good manners, they have always fallen into conducting the ceremonies, multiplying the ceremonies every now and then whenever they get an opportunity. Okay, and they wanted to prove their mettle. Next thing, which have been extremely troublesome to those who practice them and insupportable to everybody else, insomuch that wise men are often more uneasy as the other civility of these refiners than they could possibly be in the conversations of peasants and mechanics. I repeat this, girls, check this one. Which have been extremely troublesome to those who practices them. Now, participating in the ceremonies, doubling the ceremonies, trying to prove their presence, and always trying to be in the limelight, always trying to be in the highlights of any event. The writer says that this is actually a matter of getting into trouble oneself. They trouble themselves by organizing all these kind of things, because they have to ensure that the people who participate in those kind of events should be really polite when the matter comes to conversations, polite conversations, soft conversations, okay? The conversations which doesn't make the people feel uneasy, the conversations which are not at all troublesome, which are not at all difficulty by any means. They have to ensure all these things. And here the writer also says that then they could possibly be in the conversations of peasants or mechanics. Now when people start participating in any kind of ceremonies, definitely people of some stature will be invited. And we can't expect people with some designation, with people with some respectability in the society. We can't expect that their conversation can be like like a conversation between a mechanic and a peasant. The language which is used by a peasant or a mechanic. Now you know what kind of language is used by a bike mechanic, what kind of language is used by a mechanic who is working in a garage, who is working in a garage, and what kind of language employed by a peasant who is always taking care, who is always looking after his agriculture works, dealing with the laborers who are working in his agriculture fields. That's why the writer already said that this is a matter filled with troubles and difficulties, because one cannot control the proceedings that happen there. So no kind of rules and regulations have to be made. The writer says the only thing that can control the situation, the only thing that can bring the situation into control, the only thing that can manage, organize the people who are around them, people who have been invited, is only one thing, that is good breeding and good manners. If those people who are invited have been brought up in very good circumstances, who have been given a very good and proper bringing up by their parents and the atmosphere around them and the environment around them, only those people. We can expect some kind of politeness, we can expect some kind of soft-spoken tongues. We can expect some very good language without hurting, which never makes the people feel uneasy. Okay? And here, any person who makes any kind of rules and regulations, any person who can make any kind of rules and regulations related to this, what are good manners, what are good behaviors, what a person should speak, how a person should behave, how a person should exchange the respect from the others, offer the respect to the others, these things cannot be taught if they are not properly brought up in good environment. They have to understand. They need that want of understanding. They have that. They should have that lack of. They should have that sense of understanding. And if they have that sense of understanding, then the ceremony and what is that? The gathering, the party will go as expected. Because the people who are invited there and the organizers and the inviters, they don't expect these kind of languages. The language which is spoken by a mechanic, the language which is used by a peasant, that means an agriculture man. These kind of things can't work out. So here the writer says that the situation can be controlled, the situation can be saved from disaster, from being spoiled, from being destroyed or distracted or disturbed. The only thing that comes to the rescue is good manners, good behaviors, and these good manners and good behaviors should actually come from within one person's ideas. And these things mostly takes place because of their proper upbringing by their parents, their proper upbringing, which is around their locality. The next thing, here one word is available, girls, impertinences, various forms of rudeness. Check this one. The impertinences of this ceremonial behavior are nowhere better seen than at those tables where ladies preside. Check this one, preside. Now the rudeness, the impertinence means the rudeness, the impolite behavior, the impolite manners of this ceremonial behavior are nowhere better seen than at those tables where ladies preside. For example, if ladies are also part of a ceremony, if ladies are also part of any party, any gathering, any meeting, here the writer says that whatever the rude behavior, whatever the impolite behavior, whatever the uncivilized behavior we are discussing about so far, in the presence of ladies, where they sit a bit far away from us, we can see them. That means we can see those kind of impolite behaviors, rude behaviors, unceremonial behaviors. Because many people try to make a show off of their abilities, of their qualities, knowingly or unknowingly. Because just the only thing that goes through their mind is be the center of attraction. For this reason, the impolite conversations, the rude behaviors can be seen, in which the ladies are also present. Okay girls, the time is up. Let's meet in the next class. Thank you.